webinar is that we will be recording the webinar. Again, thank you for coming. We are doing a recording. It will be posted on our district website at a future date, along with all the materials that you see on the slides. All of this information will be available on our district website. On your screen, you probably see something up towards the top of the box that you have regarding the webinar. There's a little hand, and clicking on that or clicking in a box, there should be something that opens up for you where you can enter questions. I'll try to do questions at the end, but if I see something that's very, very pertinent to what we're going on, or if it's more of a hot topic, I'll be checking to see if we have any questions. So as we're going along, if you have a question, please type it in. I will read it then to everyone here, and I'll answer the question as best I can. We're expecting about 30 people tonight, and right now we're not quite there, but almost. Okay, I see someone has clicked a question. Person wants to know if I'm going to help you to tell you how to access the district website. Yes, I will. We'll have some slides on that. But I am glad to see that the question function is working. Everyone can see the screen, I assume. If you do not see the league screen, please someone type me some information to tell me that you're not seeing it. This is actually our screen. This is our district website. It's www.semish.usta.com. And like I said, that's where we will post this webinar along with all the materials. And there's also a lot of other materials. Our league rules are at this website, as well as links to several other pieces of information that can help you as a captain and give you more information about leagues. We also are on Facebook. You can either search for us on Facebook, or you can also click on the link that is at our district website. There's a link for Facebook as well as Twitter. Michelle Bear is our administrative assistant here in the office, and she is the person that's responsible for posting materials to both of those web-based programs. And we usually see a lot of league players in there. We put pictures up, especially at playoff time. We post our winners, and we have a lot to keep everybody up to date on. Give you a little bit of an idea of the size of the league that you guys are now going to be captains in. I think some of you may have been players, but again, some of you may be brand new players and captains. But we are the 6th largest league, USTA league, in the country. Last year we had 8 teams make it to their respective national championships, and we had 2 teams finish in the Final 4 in the country. The 18 and over 4-0 women from the Varsity Tennis Center, they finished 3rd. Their captain is Chiquita Berg. And our 40 and over 9-0 mixed doubles team from the Livonia Y, Rob Smith was their captain, and they finished 4th in the country. All of our other teams did well, or at least had a very good time, but those 2 were standouts in making it to the Final 4. We also offer a combo doubles program, and those teams do not have a national championship, but last year's sectional championships, our Midwest champions, we had 3 teams win their championship at those levels as well. And you see them on the screen now out of Lifetime Eastside and Sports Club of Novi. Our next level, or our next year of combo championships will take place next weekend. So these actually happened a year ago. But I always want to make sure I include them since they don't have a national. Okay, we have a few things that can help you convince some people to play, possibly. Have some incentives for you. All new members, juniors or adults, a new member to USTA can receive a free US Open hat with their new membership. They just need to make sure they include ORG16 when they purchase their new membership. we as a district will also rebate $20 to any new USTA member or lapsed member, meaning that they haven't been a member for 5 years. There is a link on our website where that person would go to fill the information out, and that would be forwarded to the district, and we would rebate them $20 of the $44 annual membership fee that is the 1-year fee for USTA membership. We also offer a league loyalty program for our captains. Any captain that's been a captain in our leagues for at least 5 years, and also at 10 years, we send out a gift of appreciation for their service, for all the work that they do as captains. Okay. When I looked at the names of the people that are here tonight, I think a lot of you have not been captains before. I do see a few people that have played in the leagues before, so this may be a little more basic than you may have been looking for, but I wanted to cover as much as I can so that if it's a brand new captain, I want to make you feel comfortable and not get overwhelmed. As I say, first order of business, don't panic. This is supposed to be fun. It's recreational tennis. The best thing you can do is be organized. Share the rules and responsibilities with all the players on your teams. Make sure that they're part of the process as well. Later on this list, you'll see that, identify someone else that can fill in for you as a captain if you're out, or even just to help you with just regular work with the team. The more that you have people helping you, the easier it'll be as well. Many of our teams have team practices. It's a good time to work on future lineups. Other teams just come and play. They don't necessarily take lessons. Every team's a little bit different. Some teams bring food after the matches. Some people go out to eat or to drink afterwards. It's up to you what you and your teammates want to do. It can be whatever kind of team you want it to be. With things that you need to get orders for the preseason, you want to make sure that you have a list of all of your team members. Some of you may have formed your teams, but others may have been volunteered by your club to take this group of people and have a team. Make sure you get their phone numbers. A lot of people are texting. If that's a way to communicate, that works. Email, that works. If it's a phone call, it's best to identify what type of communication works best for your players. Get any kind of dates for your players of when they'll be out of town. Help you organize your calendar at the start of the year of, just who you're going to have on what days. Identify who's going to play singles if your league involves singles. Who wants to play doubles? Does anyone have a preference on side? Are there partners that only want to play with each other? Are there people that don't like each other? You sometimes have to work on those angles as well. But you want to know as much as you can about the people that are on your team. And make sure that you explain the local league format and the rules to all your players. The more you know, and the more they know when they go out on the court, the better off the night should go. Okay, USTA league rules. There are really 3 and kind of 4 places where there are rules. With the USTA League program, there are national regulations, and as you see on the screen, you can find that at the national website. The Midwest section also has rules that have to do with the program for USTA leagues. Someone is telling me that they can't see. Can I get confirmation from some others that you can see the screen? Okay, thank you. The person that's telling me that they can't see it, I think it's going to have to do with something with your computer. I'm not sure what the situation is of why you can't see it. I'm sorry, but I don't know how to tell you to try to get in there, unless maybe you might try leaving the webinar and then coming back. Maybe that'll get the computer to work for you. Okay, back to the league website. So first of all, national regulations, and then Midwest regulations, and then our local league rules. Then there's this fourth that I said was kind of a set of rules. It's called the Code, and it's a guide to fair play and unwritten rules of tennis. There's a link in all of these websites for that, and in the Code, we'll talk just a little bit more about that later, but that helps you with things that just don't normally appear in rules, just sticky situations kind of things. But of all of these, the most important to your local play is going to be our local league rules. I want to touch just on these three things here with the national regulations that changed. I don't think we have anybody on the call that is in the adult 40 and over 4-5+ league, but that league is now allowed to have 3 5-0 players registered on their roster. Only 2 may participate, and they have to play on the top courts to actually play, but that's a regulation change for this year. The other thing that they changed nationally is they've eliminated national championships for 2-5 men and for 2-5 mixed doubles. So that does impact us here. One of the questions that's showing up here is, do the local league rules trump the national rules? Our local league rules cannot be in violation of a national rule. So our local rules, you'll see in a minute, have more to do with the day-to-day or on-court situations than the national regulations do. The national regulations generally lay out the process of the league program, what's going to be offered, the age groups, the levels, the big picture idea of a league. And then as it goes to Midwest, it gets a little more fine-tuned of, well, how are we going to do things in the Midwest given that we're going to offer this program? And then for us, you'll see in a second how it's narrowed down for us. Okay. First thing I wanted to touch with you has to do with our local league format. All of our matches in the summer league are the best of 2 sets. You use regular scoring. You use a match tiebreaker if you split sets and each of you has won a set. Then you use the match tiebreaker. I also wanted to point out to you that there's several different names that the tiebreakers go by, but what we use is called the 12-point tiebreaker. People sometimes confuse that with other things, but it's the first to 7 by a margin of 2, and that's the name of that tiebreaker is the 12-point tiebreaker. It can also be used as it can also be called a set tiebreaker. The third set tiebreaker is also known as the 10-point tiebreaker, and that's the first person on the team to 10 points by at least a margin of 2. So if your set reaches 6-all, 6-6, you play a 12-point tiebreaker. If you split sets, you play the 10-point tiebreaker. And then just for extra spice with the tiebreaker situation, we use the Komen switching procedures for all of our tiebreakers. So with the Komen procedures, the next person in rotation serves the first point. Then the players switch ends of the court. And then whoever's been serving on that side is going to serve the next 2 points. And with doubles teams, what the Komen does is you end up serving from the side you've been serving on the whole match. So first point is served by the person that is on that side. You switch sides. Next person in rotation serves 2. The other side serves 2. So you've played 4 points. You switch again. This goes on until the tiebreaker is finished. First to 10 by 2. Someone else is asking if the presentation is going to be on the website. Yes, we will have the presentation. All the slides you're seeing tonight will show up on our website within a certain time frame going forward. We're not sure exactly when that's going to happen, but yes. Okay. Also touching on tiebreakers, a lot of times we get questions of, at the end of the tiebreakers, when do you switch, those kind of things. So at the end of the tiebreaker, players switch sides before they begin the next set or the third set tiebreaker. So if you play a set that gets to 6-all and you play a tiebreaker, before you start the next set, you switch sides from wherever you ended. the next team to serve after a tiebreaker, the next team to serve first after the tiebreaker is the team that received first in the set. You can also think of it in terms of that same team received first in the tiebreaker or the set. What needs to happen is that service rotation order will be the opposite of what it was in the first set, just in case the second set goes to a tiebreaker, and then those rotations would all be the opposite, and everyone would have been serving in the same number of times and places. I've lost my webinar stuff, so I'm sorry. I may need to get out of here for a second. Yeah, I wanted to check my questions. I'm sorry. I needed to jump out of the webinar. Okay. Question is, in a match tiebreaker, okay, in a set tiebreaker, when it's 6-all, you cannot switch sides with your partner or alter the order of servers. So whatever rotation comes up while you're playing in the set tiebreaker, you have to stay with that rotation. If you go to a match tiebreaker, you can do whatever you could do if you were playing out a full third set. It's treated just like a brand new set. So at the beginning of the tiebreaker, you and your partner could trade sides and doubles. You also could decide who's going to serve first. You can't do that in the set tiebreaker, but you can in the match tiebreaker. Any questions? Okay. I wanted to talk a little bit about the computer ratings and dynamic ratings having to do with the league program. All players that are new to the system self-rate as they enter the league program. At the end of the year-end ratings are calculated, and they're published either the end of November, beginning of December. And the rating types that you may see after a player's rating could be, most commonly what you'll see is a C. You'll also see an A, meaning they've appealed it. A D means they were DQ'd. An E means it's an early start league. An M means that they only played mixed doubles and received a mixed doubles rating. And an S means they've either just self-rated or they didn't play enough matches to generate a computer rating, so it still stayed at the S. With the league program, self-rated players, for the most part, they put themselves in the right level. But part of the process with the self-rate is that just in case someone either improves greatly or they possibly didn't put themselves in the right place to start with, there's a checks and balances with the dynamic ratings. Every night, all the matches that are played all across the country go into a computer system, and a dynamic rating is created for everybody that played that night. If those ratings start to show that a person is playing substantially above the level in which they're competing, they start running the risk of being disqualified. If a person is performing so clearly over level in 3 matches, I get an email from the Midwest section telling me that so-and-so has been disqualified from X, Y, and Z league based on their match play. This will only happen to a self-rated player or an appealed player. An appealed player gave up protection of their computer rating when they appealed, either up or down. They are then back in the at-risk pool. When I get that email, phone call from Midwest, that's the first notification I get about someone having strikes or being disqualified. I don't get a warning, and players and captains are never given warnings. I find out only about an hour or so before you find out from me. The process here then is that I do the paperwork for the disqualification, contact the captains to pass that word along. honestly, people that are disqualified, the players usually are not surprised because they know their performance has been very, very good. Captains usually aren't overly surprised either, but they're usually a little more upset than the player is. What happens if a person is disqualified is that all of those matches at that level are reversed to be losses, and a lot of times teams can take a hit when somebody gets disqualified. We have them, for the most part, they happen to people that I treat everyone as if no one's trying to game the system. Everyone's just out playing, doing the best that they can, and sometimes a player just gets too good. And the computer, and it's only the computer, it looks at the match results and generates a rating. That's how disqualifications happen. It doesn't have anything to do with someone making a phone call or complaining about someone. That's not how those are handled. The dynamic ratings generate the eventual disqualifications. Do we have any questions about those anybody wants to hit me with real quick? Okay. General rules for our league. Our match fees, those of you that have played before know that this $15 fee is a little bit of an increase. Our match fees are $15 per person per match. They're paid on the match night. And we would recommend an effective way to handle this would be for each captain to collect all the money from all of their players and then pay the site in full. And it always has to be done prior to the match start time. Another adjustment that we've made this year has to do with deadlines for team minimums for players to be registered. There are no extensions to the deadline of 9 a.m. April 4th. Teams that don't have minimums will not be included in our scheduling. For teams that play 5 courts, you need just 8 people. Teams that play 3 courts of doubles, you need 6. And the 2 5s and the 5 0s, they need 5. Registration stays open much longer than that, but you need to have those minimums in place by 9 a.m. April 4th. We have a captain's agreement that basically just acknowledges that you understand you're the spokesman for the team, and then this is also where we're going to gather the most up-to-date information with your phone numbers and any email address. Teams in the 18 and 40 age groups must maintain rosters at a minimum of 30% at level. That means if you're in a 3-0 league, you can't all be 2 5s playing up. 30% of those players have to be 3-0 rated players. Shoot. Sorry, I keep losing my information. Sorry. Okay. We're going to talk a little more about this next point a little bit later. Players on multiple teams in the same league and the same level must declare for one team prior to playoffs. This is only required if both teams make it to playoffs. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. I have a question here. Where and when do we get the captain's agreement? It's available on our district website. I've got a slide on that in a little bit down the road here too. Okay. Now, this next part, what I've done is I went into our local league rules, and I've tried to pull out the things that generally come up during a league season, or if they do, it becomes a sticky situation. These are all covered in Section 4 of our local league rules, and these are the letters that go with them. And a complete set of our local league rules is on our district website. And someone else asked me about if somebody doesn't show up, if they're still responsible to pay. That is going to be one of these letters that we're going to talk about. So, okay, first one on here, team lineups. Exchange simultaneously at the scheduled time. What that means, too, is that if you're scheduled to play at 8:15, 8:15 comes up and there are no courts available, the captains still need to exchange lineups. So at the scheduled match time is when you exchange those. There's no substitutions to that lineup once you've exchanged it unless you have somebody that hasn't shown up. if you have an extra person that you brought, they can be substituted directly into that position. If the court opens up and they're ready to play and you've got an extra person, that person can go directly into that hole. You can't rewrite your lineup, but you can substitute directly into that hole. Letter G addresses order of play, in that if there are only some courts available at match time, this is the required order that they go on. First singles, second singles, first doubles, second doubles, third doubles. If both captains agree to change that, that's fine. But if either disagrees to that night, you have to go in this order. Sometimes, if it's an unfortunate night and each of you have somebody off different courts that aren't there, it might make more sense to make sure everybody gets to play to make an adjustment. But both of you have to agree to that. Letter H addresses our warm-up. It's 10 minutes and it includes serves. Any player that's running late, they're entitled to what remains of that or 5 minutes, whichever is greater. Letters J and K address coaching and on-court viewing. No coaching is permitted in this league. Discourage your players from talking to spectators. Spectators shouldn't be talking to players. If you don't have any conversations, then it won't be misconstrued as coaching. The other part of this has to do with on-court viewing. Only active participants are permitted on court during match play. When a match is finished, all the players need to leave the playing area. You shouldn't hang around and wait to watch your teammates. Chances are there's another match coming on out there after you anyway, but you need to leave the playing area. We have one situation where I know at Eastside they have bleachers out on the courts. That's a designated viewing area. That's different than, sitting on the player's bench or standing there right on the court. However, Eastside is also very aware that if things get rowdy on their bleachers, the club can make a decision to pull people off of there. Someone has asked, can we warm up more than 10 minutes? No, our warm-up is 10 minutes. Chances are there are other matches coming in behind you. So if you take an extra 5 minutes and then your match goes and it plays long, the people behind you suffer for that. If you're the one coming on with a 9 o'clock match, you're not going to appreciate that, the match is 6:30 and 8 o'clock took 25 minutes to warm up and now they're playing. So please tell your players it's 10 minutes and stick to it. Someone is saying if we get there early. Your matches are scheduled to start at 6:30. It's between you and the club as far as court payment for a court outside of the leagues. The match starts at 6:30. So that's when, whatever the start time is for a match, that's when our rules cover things. Anything else is between you and the club. And they are not required to give you courts to warm up on early. Okay. Letter L, electronic devices. Electronic communication devices of all types must be turned off before you start play. If a device is activated during play, the opponent may claim the point based on a hindrance. Players on adjoining courts may call a let, and that's if they heard it. Not just if you found out, oh, now I'm going to tell my teammates, they get a let. No, you shouldn't be talking to those people. You need to stay just within your own court and deal with things on your own court. We're very specific about calling an electronic device, a communication device. Please make sure and understand that we have at least 2 people I know of that have insulin pumps. Yes, that's electronic. No, they don't have to turn it off. This has to do with people being able to communicate with someone either by disrupting play, ordering a pizza for after the match, or having someone call them to give or text them to get coaching advice. So those things all need to be shut down before the match starts. One piece that's on our website that's very important that you take a look at is our special situations document. These cover all kinds of situations that can occur at clubs. It can include the court surface that's going to be used, and big important clothing requirements. We have several places that require white, predominantly white clothing. Several other country clubs do not allow denim on the premises. This also addresses the method of payment that's acceptable. Some require cash, some won't take checks, some will take credit cards, but not this credit card. So please make sure when you get your schedule and you see who you're playing, if it's someplace you've never been, or even if it is, you might want to check anyway to see if anything unusual is going on. With the predominantly white clothing or white clothing, if you have players that show up that don't meet the dress code that's listed, the club is not going to let them play. And your player made the mistake by not coming dressed appropriately. So that's a situation that we've had some uncomfortable situations with that, so please make sure that you're following that. Okay. I'm going to address this one simply because I think it kind of has to do with watching on court. Is there a rule that says teams can't cheer against an opponent, or is that more of an etiquette thing? It really is more of an etiquette thing, and you know, the noise shouldn't be disrupting courts, but it's not going to be a case where it's going to be completely quiet all night either. So, but we have no rules that address that. Okay, letter O, indoor backup for flights that have indoor and outdoor teams. We do try to have our outdoor teams put into flights together, and they have their own rain rules, and they understand the premise of how backup or makeup matches occur. However, there are instances where we have to put indoor and outdoor teams together. Say we've only got 5 teams of a certain category, and 2 of them are outside and 3 of them are inside. We don't have enough to put them in separate flights, so they're all together. So if you find yourself in that situation and it's looking like there's going to be rain, first of all, the outdoor team is responsible for making the indoor arrangements. The other team should not be calling clubs to look for indoor backup. The host team that has the outdoor courts is responsible for making those arrangements. If the home team informs the visiting team with at least a 2-hour notice of where they have indoor backup that night, the indoor team has to comply and they go to that arranged site and play that night. If there's less than 2 hours notice given, or say you show up and you start to play or you try to play and it starts to rain, now it's up to the visiting team to say yes or no, we'll go to where you have backup. I would encourage you to go because making up rained-out matches can be very tricky. What happens in this case is that we then go to what we call our rain rules. And what that means is that the match will be getting made up that immediately following Saturday or possibly Sunday. And if you started the match, you have to use the same people that you've been using, and you pick up at the point you left off. If you haven't started a match, you can use a whole new lineup. But if you've started, I would strongly encourage you to go into where they've made arrangements. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. But just review that if you're an indoor team and you have some outdoor teams in your group. Just review those rules so that you understand them. And if you have any questions, please give me a call. Again, I mentioned about the rain rules. When something is rained out, I need to be notified that that was the situation and then what the new date and time is. If the 2 captains come up with something different other than Saturday, I'm okay with that as long as it's played before the last scheduled match in your flight. You can't play anything past the last match in your flight. You need to let me know that that's what happened, and a note will be made on Tennis Link so that we know that it was a rain situation. Any questions about that? Okay. Letter S, arriving late / default. Our default rule is 10 minutes. It's 10 minutes from the time that the match is assigned to the court. There's no gradual penalties, like if somebody's 5 minutes, they lose the toss. No, that's handled in a tournament situation where we have officials. Since these are unofficiated matches, our local rule was written so that it's 10 minutes. It's all or nothing. If you choose to take that default, if a person's 10 minutes late, they're not there, and you choose to take that as a default, you need to be very clear with the players and the other captain that that's what's happening. And I would strongly encourage you to make sure that you mark it on the scorecard, and always, before anybody goes out and plays for fun, or always before, before the match, anything goes on, you need to make sure everybody's on that same page. Now, our rule is 10 minutes, and what I've told people is if you see someone, it's 11 minutes, and they're frantically running through the lobby, throwing on clothes, putting their shoes on, and running, you should play. The whole point that people are playing in the league is they want to play tennis. And yes, that's not a very good thing that that person was late. But there might have been a circumstance out of their control in that instance where they're there. Please play. However, if you're there and it's now 12 minutes, 15 minutes, and somebody shows up and tries to get you to go out and play, I'm not so sure I'd be so accommodating. You should look at each situation as it comes up, but yes, the drop dead is 10 minutes. And again, think about those people that might be coming in after you too. If you allow somebody to come in 20, 30 minutes late, you've just now backed up everybody else. So that's not a good thing either. So we have this rule, but we do want you to play. So it's one of those sticky situations. Okay, court defaults. Someone had asked earlier if you're responsible for paying for that court if you show up and you don't have someone. We have written in our rules that if you give at least a 24-hour notice to the club and the other captain, your team's no longer responsible to pay for that court. Now, for a 5-court league, you have to play at least 3 courts for it to be a legal match. You could default 2 of them 24 hours in advance and not have to pay for them, but you have to give notice. In the 3-court leagues, you can only default 1 position. But if you give notice, you're not responsible for that court's monetary situation that night. If you show up and you haven't told them, that club is expecting money for that court that night, and your team is now responsible to pay for both sides of that court. Our clubs, what they sell is court time, and once that time is gone, they can't get it back and sell it again. So, we've given you a huge out with this, with 1 or 2 courts. Sometimes things come up, but for the most part, and sometimes it happens where you can't field all of your courts. We understand that, but let the right people know, and then your team's off the hook. Any questions about that? I see someone answered yes. Well, how about a question? I'll look for it here to come up in a second, but I want to move on to total team defaults because that's a different animal. That's a case where a whole team doesn't play an entire match, or you show up with 1 court in a 5-court league. That's not a match. If you have a default, do you owe $30 or $15? Okay. If you don't give notice and you show up and you don't have second singles, you owe the club $30 because you have to pay for both sides of that court. Your team's responsible for that. If you show up and you don't come in with a 3rd doubles team or a doubles team, it's 15 times 4. So it's $60. So please give them notice. You're off the hook. Now, with a total team default, there is no grace period. We want matches to play. The other teams want to play tennis. You only need to take 3 courts out of 5 or 2 courts out of 3. If a team doesn't play at least that or doesn't play at all, they're financially responsible for all the match fees for all those courts on both sides of the court. We don't have this situation a lot, but when we have had it, it gets ugly very quickly. The biggest challenge has been making the team that's responsible for this come up with the money. And it gets real tricky because, let's face it, they're not standing there, so you can't even ask anybody for it. So what's happened during the past few months, our local league committee writes the rules for the leagues, and they have written out a step-by-step policy of exactly what will happen if a total team defaults, and then what happens if they don't pay. I don't want any of you to panic or freak out as the captain. You are the spokesperson for your team. Yes, you're the one that we contact, but this is a team responsibility. So I'm going to bring up the next slide and hope you're all still here with me. Okay. If we have a total team default, a warning email goes out to the captain, all the players on the roster, as well as the facility tech person where you play. You'll be told what the amount is, what's to be sent to the club, and it's expected to be paid within 10 business days. If that payment doesn't arrive, then the captain at the end of that season will be suspended as a player and a captain for 364 days. And at that point, the team is now responsible for the same court fees and an additional $100 that is paid to the district. Everyone will get another email, and if that isn't paid within 10 business days, everyone on the roster and the captain will be suspended for a day short of a year. So, like I said, we don't have it happen a lot. We have had situations. We just haven't had it laid out exactly how it's going to be handled and collected and what will happen if it doesn't get taken care of. I'm not anticipating a big problem with this. If you have concerns or you're nervous, feel free to call me here at the office and we can talk some more. But we just want to make sure everybody knows this is what's going on. And like I say, I'm not anticipating it, but we want to make sure everybody knows. Okay, one more letter within the section 4 of our league, our local league rules has to do with rescheduling. And we really, in the summertime, we really expect you to play that schedule as it's written. Each of our levels have a certain day that they play, and it's all laid out. We've got 10 weeks or sometimes a little less to get the whole schedule in, and we've done our best to put these matches into the holes where the clubs have given us court availability. Sometimes things come up. In the summer, not so much. But if something does happen and you want to reschedule, you can ask the other captain to reschedule. The other captain has every right to say, no, thank you, we want to play. We're available to play, let's go. However, if it works out for both of you and you want to reschedule, we have some criteria that you have to meet. First of all, you have to have the new date and time in place before the originally scheduled match. So if you have a July 6th match and you both are agreeing to reschedule it, I need to know what the new one is before July 6th. You can't call me on the 8th and tell me you guys didn't play, you decided to reschedule. You have to do it before the original date. The other thing is that it cannot be rescheduled any later than the last scheduled match in your flight. So you can't extend the season past the last date that you see in your group. So those are the two key things there. Okay, we're going to go back to the total team default. I see a question here. If a court costs $30, why are doubles charged the same as singles, $15 per person playing in a match that day? The doubles matches I'm not even sure how to answer that. Are you asking me about the total team default or the defaulted court? I mean, if that's what you're asking me, all I can say is that's the way the revenue is set up, and that's the revenue the club was expecting. If anything, the singles players, if you're talking about length of time on the court, the singles players are getting a better deal, possibly. But at this point, that's the way our match fees are set up, and that's what we're looking at for defaults. I'm going to go back to the rain question here a little bit later. Okay. All right. just want to reiterate, minimums due 9 a.m. April 4th, no refunds, but we will move those people to other teams in the 2016 season if they can find another team to move to. We'll be happy to do that, but hopefully we won't have any issues with teams being short. Okay, someone asked, where do we find the league captain's waiver? If you go to our district website, this is a screenshot of what it looks like when you get to where you'll hit the link. You'll bring up scmish.usta.com, and then you'll click on USTA League Tennis. That will drop down all of these choices, and you will go to Captain's Resources. And then at the top of the page, you'll see this link, USTA League Captain's Waiver. And just click on that. It's a JOT form, and then that comes back to us. This is the verbiage that shows up at the top of the waiver, and at the bottom it asks for your name, phone number, email address, and at the very bottom there's a place where you do a signature with your mouse, or attempt to. We get some interesting looking calligraphy that comes through on that. Okay, I mentioned earlier about the local league change with player decision forms. This only affects the women's leagues, and it only affects the women that play on a day team and a night team in the same age group at the same playing level. So if you're playing 3-0 in the 18 and overs during the day, and the same thing at night, 3-0 night women, 18 and over at night, and both of those teams make it to playoffs, you now have to choose between those two teams before playoffs, and you can't rejoin if you join the team that doesn't win. You have to stay with your choice. We don't have the specifics on how we'll get the paperwork out to everybody yet, but just know that that's a change, and you'll be receiving more information if you're a team that is going to be making it to playoffs. Okay. On our website, we have a calendar showing when different leagues play. This is listed out by day, so you could look and see Wednesday night what plays. We have another version, I'll flip back, where if you want to find out when the 4-0 40 and over men play, you can go into the 40 and over league and then find the 4-0 men. They play on Thursday. So if you're looking to want to know just what's playing on these nights, this is a good place to look. If you're looking for something specific, this version's a little bit easier to navigate. And both of these are available on the website. Okay, I mentioned before about the 30% of rostered players at level. We have a little cheat sheet that'll be up on the website as well. So if you carry a roster of 14 to 16 players, you need at least 5 at level. It really isn't a lot of players, but when you start getting those bigger rosters, they become harder to find. So this will help you out a little bit if you have players that are playing below level. Just make sure you have enough that are at level. Next year, we're going to be doing some big changes with mixed doubles. And I'm just going to very briefly touch on this because you guys as new captains, I don't even know if I have very many mixed captains on here tonight, but we're basically going to break down the mixed doubles in the 18s and the 40s into 4 quick, shorter seasons so that we can offer all the playing levels in all of the times that we offer for the league. So in the fall, we'll start up with a 40 and over league. Come January, we'll run an 18 and over mixed doubles league. Then mid-May, we're going to start up with another 40s group. And then at the end of June, we'll do another 18 and over mixed doubles season. So unless you guys have a lot of questions about that, I want to just kind of move on from there. There'll be more information coming out on this for everybody anyway. But we're going to try to make another little adjustment for mixed to make everybody happy. Okay. I'm going to hit some of these questions before we go to this information I have on how do you find stuff on TennisLink. So let me see. Should a co-captain sign the agreement? Co-captains are more than welcome to go in there and sign the waiver if they'd like to. How much is the fee for a doubles player to play a match? It's $15 per person per match for singles or doubles. Someone else asked, last year we played in light rain and pushed to continue. Most of us wanted to, some didn't. What's the protocol? I would say that the two captains that night need to, be polling their players and get a good feel for what you guys are thinking. Some courts are more playable than others with a mist. Certainly if you're at a club with on clay courts, and we have a few of those, if it's a light rain on clay, that's just an extra watering. If it's some hard courts, the lines get slippery the minute it starts to get really humid. Some courts are that way. You just have to kind of make a call that night of what you've got. Okay. I've had the screen up here showing you how to go directly to Tennis Link. Sometimes it's a little tricky to find it, and with Tennis Link, there are different types of Tennis Links. The one for league is the one that you have to be in. If you go to Tennis Link for team tennis or tournaments, league information is nowhere to be found there. Any team numbers you have won't work in that. You have to be in USTA leagues. And the red link there, if you type it in just like that, it takes you directly to Tennis Link for leagues. Okay. The main screen on Tennis Link, when you get logged in, has these versions, these 4 separations of things that are available. And I did this slide before I pulled up the next one I'm going to bring up, because this has bigger lettering. But you basically have 4 groupings: start playing, stats and standings, find NTRP rating info, and quick links. Now, this is a little tougher to see just because the printing's a little less. But this is what it will look like once you're logged in. You see the start playing, stats and standings, find NTRP rating info, and my quick links. You'll also see a welcome with your name up here when you're logged in. And to the right of your name, you'll see your NTRP level listed, and there will be a link to appeal a rating. So if you have a player that wants to appeal, this is where they go. Log in and click that link if they're a computer-rated player. I think it may work for self-rated, but they certainly can try it. We'll also list the USTA number, and then there's a link here to manage your account if you need to make any changes with address or those kind of things. But the key thing on this screen is, this is the screen you'll be at when you click here to register for a team. This will send your contact information to me to tell you what leagues we have. We can cut out the middleman. You can call us or send me an email. But the key button here is register for a team. This section of stats and standings, you can look up someone by their player name, their USTA number, a team number, or you can look up a match number and see the scorecard. This button here, this is where you can go to enter your scores. Click on that, and then it's going to ask you for the match number. There are also many other ways to get in and get to where you input scores, but this one's right on the main page. This section right here, you can look up by USTA number, a team number, or a player name, and what you'll get then, if you do it by your team number, you'll get a list of all of your players and all their ratings. If you do it by the player name, you'll just see their name. This sometimes comes in, it's a little helpful for you if you want to scout the other teams. What you'll also see is a listing down here of my teams. Once you're registered, all the teams that you're registered for will be listed here. Now, this is kind of a hodgepodge of my name with somebody else being registered on the Salazar team in Franklin. I'm not on that team, but kind of put together a show here for you on this. Okay. Someone's asking, how do you know what the match number is to enter scores? That we'll go over here in a second. Are the requirements that each player has to play a minimum number of matches? For your league, no. To advance for championships, yes. Well, we can talk about that in just a second. But as far as okay, I'm gonna just keep going on here, and we'll get to these questions later. Okay, this screen, I know you can't see anything, but my point is to give you an example of what one looks like. This is actually last year's Salazar team, the one that went to nationals at 2-5. This is your team summary page. So when you're on this screen, you can put in your team number, or actually you can click on this team number or this team name, and it will take you to the team summary page. There's so much information you can get off the team summary page from the links that are on here. It'll show you your name, co-captain's name, facility. Same thing if you look up anybody else's team. This is what you're going to see. You'll have these tabs, and these are the magic tabs. You'll have the team summary, match summary, match schedule, player roster, and a captain's report. The match summary, well, before I talk about each of these buttons, I want to talk about what else is on the screen here. You will have a listing of team standings of all the teams that are in your flight, and you'll see wins and losses, match wins and losses, individual courts won, individual courts lost, sets lost, and games lost. Underneath this group, you'll see team matches, which is basically your schedule. These are also hot links in that you could click on these to go look at the completed scorecard, or you could click on that to input the scorecard as well. In this case, you're going to see all the results are on there as well. Underneath this, you see all the players that were on this team's roster last year. And then at the very bottom, what you see are championship advancements. The top link on the championship advancement is the furthest that team made it. And these are all live links. If you're online and you pull this team up, you can click on this and go to the national championships and then look around at their matches. So they made it to nationals. Underneath that is the Midwest Championships. There's the Michigan States, and then our local league playoffs are underneath that. So this screen just on its own has all kinds of information. Now, match summary, I did not do a screenshot of. It's basically this information here, except it's all the teams in your flight. So you'll see every match that these 4 teams played and the results of that. What I think you'll be most interested in is the match schedule and the captain's report. The player roster, if you're logged in, you can get a lot of information about your players off of that. But I didn't want to pull one of those up because there's a lot of personal information that shows up on those. But match schedule, this is what it will look like. And as you see, whichever one you're on, the tab turns blue. So this is the match schedule. What you'll show is the match ID. Someone asked, where do we find the match IDs? They're right here on the match schedule report. You'll see the date that it's scheduled, the time, the home team. You'll also see the captain's phone numbers, as well as visiting and phone numbers, and then where the match is going to be played. This just brings up your team. As you'll see, it's Salazar against Trevax-Levy, Salazar against Ferguson, Cool against Salazar. So your match schedule page will give you all of this information. We also supply you with, we're calling it a captain's contact form. We make these up in the office, and it will have the team numbers for all the teams, because unless we give them to you, you can't find them. And as I mentioned, you can look up things by team numbers. It's just a lot easier. Now, I'll tell you another thing going back to this screen. If you want to go directly to these teams, you can click on the team name, and it will take you to their team summary page. So you don't necessarily have to have a team number. But this form will come from us to you after the schedules are done. It'll also include the phone numbers that we've captured on the captain's agreement form and the email address that we've captured on that. We'll give you the list for the playoffs, give you a reminder of how to go back to get to Tennis Link again. Your scores should be reported within 24 hours and certainly within 48. There's a tendency to lose information after that. And then there's contact information for the office. I did not do a captain's report because there was so much information on it. I'm sorry. There's too much personal information on that one. But when you click on this captain's report, you'll get captains' names, phone numbers, and emails for everyone in your playing level. So with these 2-5 women, we had multiple flights. So you're going to have your flight and everybody else. So if you can't find it some other way, that's a place where you can find a contact way to get a hold of some people in your flight. Okay, I'm going to look at some questions here before we go on to these, because I know we have quite a few. Okay, I want to just reiterate about, are there requirements about the a minimum number of matches that a player has to play? If you have a team that is going to be advancing to playoffs, you think you're going to win your flight, for a person to be eligible to play in playoffs, they have to play at least 2 matches. One of those can be a default received, but only one can count in that, but they have to play at least 2 matches. Is there an age when a computer rating will not go up regarding the performance of a player? There are things in the work nationally. The more experienced players of 60 to 65 and 70, there's a lot of discussion on whether or not to freeze them at a level or to allow them to move up or down. They've taken steps to freeze the levels, and then several players in that age group were not happy with that. They wanted to be able to see if they did get moved up or moved down. So I'm not sure where that is at this point, but that is something that's being discussed at a national level. Okay, I guess I don't see any other questions. Let me go to the next screen. We just kind of want to remind you too, again, that local matches are unofficiated matches. Players should never solicit outside help to call lines or foot faults or to resolve on-court disputes. The players on the court need to come to a conclusion of what they're going to do stepping forward. You know, how are they going to resolve it? I know there are instances where captains, if things are just not getting taken care of, the inclination is to want to go over and help. Well, first, if you're playing your match, you shouldn't walk away from your match. But if there is a case where some captain's help is needed, the first thing you need to make sure you do is you get the other captain to go with you. That way, it doesn't appear as if one captain's trying to get the better of the situation. But again, I would strongly encourage you to have these people try to resolve their own situation, because they're the ones that were there dealing with it. Again, a copy of the code is available, and I pulled out 2 items from the code that if these all happened in all the matches, we wouldn't have drama. And the first item in the code is courtesy is expected. You know, tennis is a game that requires cooperation and courtesy. And if those things happen, it's kind of hard to get into an argument or a fight. But when cooperation and courtesy leave, things can get a little dicey, especially when you put it in hand if you don't follow number 6. The opponent should always get the benefit of the doubt. You don't have officials out there. The best thing you could ever do is just, you want to play fair. If you're not sure about something, the opponent gets the benefit of the doubt. If you're sure about a call, then you make the call as you saw it. But if you're not sure, the opponent gets the benefit of the doubt. And if everybody played that way, things would be a lot happier. We are having another set of seminars presented by our chair of officials. Mel Kropko is our Southeast Michigan officials chair. And 2 years ago, he did some seminars, tennis ethics and basic rules for the USTA league player. And it's a lot of what-if situations. You know, who makes a call? Who calls those foot faults? They're very good. He does an excellent job. These are open to all captains or players. And I've encouraged captains, you know, if you've got that one little player that just doesn't quite seem to do things right and you can't get through to them, this might be a good place for them to go and learn. The other thing, too, is that, you know, certainly it gives everybody a chance to, you know, brush up on some of the idiosyncrasies that happen with tennis and how to handle certain disputes and just how to go about things. Those are going to be happening in April and early May. We don't have the dates and locations yet, but as soon as we do, we'll have those out to you. And again, all captains, all players, more than welcome to come. Okay, I know, you guys are going, oh my God, she's going to tell me April 4th, 9 a.m. again. I can't tell you how important that is. That's the drop dead date. This lists also when the leagues are planning to start. The Monday leagues will start the week of May 16th. Schedules will be out 2 weeks in front of that. So if you're in the 18s and 40s groups, your first matches will be May 16th. The Tuesday through Thursday leagues in that group, they will start the week of May 24th, the week right in front of Memorial Day this year. Those schedules will be out by the 10th. If you're playing in the 55s on Monday, the 55 and over leagues, those Monday leagues are going to start June 6th. We push them to start a little bit later because their playoffs start much later than the 18s and 40s. So we push them forward a little bit. The 55 and over Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, those will start the week of May 17th. They will start the week of May 31st. I'm sorry, schedules will be out May 17th. Mixed doubles will start the Friday after Memorial Day. And if you are in our 65 and over league, we're starting those matches on May 20th with schedules out May 6th. Okay. Championship dates. We have our upcoming Winter Mixed Doubles League playoffs coming up the end of April, beginning of May. And then our summer playoffs start that very last weekend in July for our 40 and overs. Our 18 and overs are the following weekend. This year is our turn to host states, so I don't have a site yet, but that will be the dates that we'll be using for that. Then as you see, the 18s and 40s follow for the Midwest Championships. And I've got our mixed doubles, 55s, everything all laid out through the 65s. And again, this will be available online as well. Okay, I'm kind of at the end of the seminar. I'll bring this back up here in a second. I lost my screen again. So I'm open for questions. I hope this has been helpful for everyone. I don't see any more new questions coming in, so I hope I still have everybody here. Oh, and for those of you that were here and took the poll earlier, you guys did really well on the poll. I used that question before, and the question was if a ball lands on the outside the line and you don't make an out call, is the ball in or out? The ball's playable. If you don't make a call, that ball's considered good. You keep playing. And I don't think anybody answered it wrong in this group. In my other group, they didn't do quite so good. But you guys, I don't think there was a wrong answer in the bunch. So that was great. How do we input scores? Okay. When you go to Tennis Link, you'll put in that match number. And I'm sorry, I should have made a screenshot of that as well. You'll put that match number in, and it's going to bring up a blank scorecard. Each of the positions on the blank scorecard will have a drop-down menu where you click on that and select the players. So you'll input all the players that played. And then you'll have to go over towards the right-hand side of the card, and you'll input the scores. And they always go in the order of the team that won. It's not left side and right side of the scorecard. It's who won the match. So if the right-handed side, the person on the right-handed side of the card won 6-0-6-0, it's not going to say 0606. It'll say 6060. There's a place to mark in each position under the names who won the match. That's how the computer knows they won 6060. And you'll put all of that information in for all the courts, and then I don't know if it says enter or submit, and then it'll bring the card up for you to take another look at it, and then you'll need to finish it by clicking the finish button. If you get there first, you put the scores in. The other team then gets there second, they confirm or dispute it. It doesn't matter if you're the home team, the visiting team, whoever, whichever captain gets there first, puts them in. Okay. I hope that helps. And another question, what do you suggest if you think you might struggle to make a minimum but have self-rated players who might be above level? I'm going to assume that you're concerned that you might not have at least 8 people registered. I know that I said there's if you have a lot of self-rated players that have had to appeal their ratings, or you think that they're stuck in here somehow and haven't gotten registered, you need to call me. If you're having trouble struggling to get enough people on your team, you should contact your facility person, and maybe they can come up with some more people to help you. You can always try us. We don't maintain a list of people that that are looking for teams. I'll get those information requests, and we send out the captain's contact information for facilities that are close to where the person asking for information is located. So you may see something come from me that you're copied on, that Bill Smith wanted to join a 3-5 team in the Novi area. I'll give that person your contact information, and I'll copy you on that email, and you can certainly reach out to him via email, but that person then will be directed to kind of give you a call. We send those out as we get those in. Type me more if I didn't answer your question. And I've got a couple here about how do you confirm the scores, how soon do you have to enter the scores. Okay, to enter the scores, we want you to get them in there within 24 hours if at all possible. They need to be in no later than 48. As far as confirming the scores, it's the same process that you go by to enter the scores. You'd find a place, put in the match number, and if it's already been input, it'll bring the card up and give you the option to review it and then confirm or dispute it. Okay, I have a person that's, my entire team is new to USTA and will be self-rated. Do you think we will be at risk? I'm going to assume 2-5 or 3-0. What I can tell you as far as the dynamic grading process goes, when I mentioned about how if a player performs significantly above level, they receive a strike. That range is bigger on the lower levels because there's anticipation that those players are going to get better. And the point of having the dynamic process is to not discourage people from playing, but to give them an easier way to get into the league without other hoops to jump through. So a 2-5 player is going to be allowed to get really, really, really good before they start even throwing strikes. The window's a lot more narrow on a 5-0 player. So the computer's all set up to, read it program-wise of this person has this rating, they're doing this, and, oops, now at 4-0 you're playing like a 4-5 player. That range is significantly different from a 2-5 and a 3-0 player range. I don't believe I had any 2-5s disqualified last year. And if it makes you feel a little better, the team that went to nationals, they didn't lose anybody between here and nationals, and those ladies all got a whole lot better. So the computer is a fair system. It's blind as to who's doing anything. It's just looking at match results, but it treats the lower level players to a lot bigger opportunity to get better and improve. I hope that helps answer that. Are there any other questions? Okay, if there aren't any other questions, I think we're finished for tonight. I appreciate it. I know we went a little over the hour, but not too badly, and I hope that it was informative. And I have one more question. How soon do we have to complete the captain's agreement? We'd like to see those by the 4th as well, so that we know who's out there. Any other questions? Okay, if there isn't anything else, then good night. I appreciate you guys hanging with us, and again, hope you learned a lot. And if you have any questions, feel free to give us a call at the office here, okay? All right, we'll see you out there. Good luck. Have fun this season.